Well, the doctor is in, and today our topic is clinical trials. These trials look at new ways to prevent, detect, or treat disease and help doctors and researchers make medical advances. And whether you are sick or healthy, you can participate in the trial, but are they safe, and what do you need to know beforehand? Dr. Scott Ackerman is one of the First Coast leading doctors. He is here today to talk about the ins and outs of joining a clinical trial. Thank you so much for being here. And one of the reasons, Dr. Ackerman, why we decided to talk about this is because we hear about this a lot in the news. We see a lot of commercials talking about clinical trials. But what exactly is clinical research? What does this mean?
So, thank you, Casey. Clinical research is that branch of medicine that we use that helps us determine the safety and effectiveness of all sorts of things. You immediately think of medications. We use clinical trials to see if one medication is better than another medication. But we also use clinical trials to look at the safety and efficacy of treatment devices like pacemakers and those sort of things, diagnostic products like CAT scanners or MRI scanners, or even little strips to check your blood glucose. And also for treatment regimes. And what I do in cancer, we use clinical trials all the time to figure out the best combination of chemotherapy and radiation therapy and surgery for different types of cancers. But clinical trials are used not just for cancer, but clinical trials are used for all sorts of illnesses: hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer as well. And clinical trials are usually the final step of a long research process that we go through to develop equipment, drugs, devices, those sort of things.
So what are some of the benefits then for a patient or someone who's looking to do one of these clinical trials?
Well, the largest benefit is really a societal benefit. By participating in a clinical trial, you're helping us physicians understand the best way to treat patients with the disease that you might have. And so that allows us to tomorrow treat people better than we do today. And the clinical trials that were done years before allow us to know what the best treatment is today that we can offer people today. That's the real benefit. Okay. But there's also a benefit in that you're going to be going to the physician a little bit more often. You're going to have some more tests. You're going to be monitored a little bit more closely for whatever disease that you're being evaluated for. And for that extra time that you commit to going to the doctor's office, or extra time that you commit to having additional blood tests and those sort of things, there usually is some sort of financial compensation for that.
And then when a lot of people think of clinical trials, especially when it pertains to cancer, some people think that it's a last-ditch effort. That's not really the case with a lot of these.
Right, absolutely not. It is, in a small percentage of the cases, clinical trials or the drugs we use are a last-ditch effort. So let me try to explain that a little more broadly. When we investigate devices and drugs and those sort of things, we have different phases of clinical trials. So the drug is developed through research, and then we test it on animals, and we test it in the Petri dish, in the lab to see, to make sure it works. And then when we first start using it on humans, that's usually considered what we call phase 1 or phase 2 of the development of that drug. And it's a new drug that we haven't used yet for this certain disease. And so those patients that are involved in evaluating the drug when it first comes out are usually ones where it's a last resort, where they have already been treated with the conventional treatments, and despite that, they still have their cancer, or they still have that certain disease. But then once we determine that this drug is safe and rather effective for the disease, it gets on to the next stage of research called phase 3 or phase 4. And this is where we look at that drug head-to-head with the drugs that we're already using for that disease or cancer. And we take patients, and we take, say, 100 patients, and we divide 50 of them to get the conventional treatment and 50 of them to get the new drug. And we see how they turn out. Or we have a new drug, and we get 50 of them get the new drug, and 50 get placebo or a sugar pill. And so, and that's how we determine that this new drug or treatment might be better than existing drugs. And these are the last stages. But most of the drugs, thousands of drugs available on the market today, wouldn't be there if it wasn't for them being part of a clinical trial, if it hadn't been for patients agreeing to be enrolled in these clinical trials and help us determine the safety and efficacy of these drugs.
So I'm going to combine a couple of questions here, but if someone wants to participate in one of these trials, what can they expect?
So first, when you meet with your physician, if they talk to you about a clinical trial, they're going to determine if you're eligible for it, if you're the right age and have the right stage of disease and that sort of thing. And then they review with you the clinical trial in a very detailed way and get an informed consent from you, meaning they get from you your agreement to participate in it, your agreement to show up for the blood work and the exams more often, and then you're randomized to receive, usually you're randomized to receive either the new drug or placebo or the existing drugs.
And they are available here, these trials in Northeast Florida?
Yeah, it's amazing. We have very many number of trials available here in Jacksonville and our area. There's a great website called clinicaltrials.gov, and there you could find out what's available here based on the kind of disease you have and your age and that sort of thing.
Okay. Dr. Ackerman, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you being here every week. We thank you for your insight and perspective on all of this. And Dr. Ackerman is going to be joining us next Friday, as he visits us every Friday. He's going to be talking about head and neck cancers and some of the information that you need to know about. So for questions regarding today's topic or any other health question that you might have, just visit firstcoastoncology.com. You can confidentially submit your questions to Ask the Doctor. It can be about this subject. It can be about next week's subject. It can be about whatever you have on your mind. You can know that it's going to get to him confidentially, and they will respond.